This week's Torah portion is the second reading in the book of Deuteronomy, and it's called Eschanan. The book of Deuteronomy is Moses speaking to the Jewish people as they're poised to go into the land of Israel. And Moses is telling them everything they need to know. What you need to know when you leave the desert experience, when you leave this constant relationship that we had in the desert with God, we're going to move into the land of Israel where God will be more hidden. And Moses is telling the Jewish people, this is what you need to know. So what we read in this week's Torah portion is a recap of the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments are given over again to the Jewish people with a slight variations, but they're given again. And we also are taught the Shema Yisrael, the first paragraph of that prayer, with the banner statement of the Jewish people, which says Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Listen up, O Israel. The Lord is our God. The Lord is one. God is one. So I want to pick up on the theme of oneness and what it means for us to understand that God is one. Shem Echad, that God is one. We also read in this week's Torah portion this amazing statement, which is Ein od milvado, there is nothing but God. So we understand from our tradition that there's only one God. Not that there's lots of gods, there's one God, but really there's only God. In the Ten Commandments, the first 4 or 5, the ones that are on the first tablets of stone, are our relationship to God, that you should have no other God. I am the Lord your God. Don't have any other gods. Don't have any idols. And Moses reiterates in this week's Torah portion the injunction to not have idolatry, nothing other than God. Don't take God's name in vain, and celebrate God and take stock of the Shabbat. So that's on the first set of tablets. The first 5 of the Ten Commandments are about our relationship to God, who is one, who is only God. So I want to give us 3 different metaphors for how to understand, perhaps in a concrete way, what it means that God is one. The first metaphor is a baby, a fetus in utero. Baby in utero is growing inside its mother, has no concept of its mother, but is completely sustained by the mother. The food, the oxygen, all its needs, everything cushioned, beautiful temperature, everything the child needs to grow and develop is given by the mother, unknown by the baby that is in utero. And the baby is completely dependent on its mother. The mother is not dependent on the baby. And that could be seen as a way to understand our relationship with God. We're completely dependent on God. Our soul that animates us, that enlivens us, that gives us the energy to live in this world comes from God. We're constantly, so to speak, plugged in to the source of all life, God. We're plugged in through our soul. God is breathing that soul that is keeping us alive, that's keeping us functioning in the world all the time. We're getting that infusion of divine energy that keeps us going, which is why in the morning, when we say the morning traditional prayer of Moda Ani, that we thank God for returning our soul to us, to waking us up in the morning, giving us energy to live the day, and for us to use well. So that's the first metaphor. The baby in utero is similar to, perhaps on some level, our existence in this world, constantly being given energy and life source and protection by the divine source of everything. Another metaphor is an infinite ocean. Imagine an infinite ocean of godliness. And in this infinite ocean of godliness, there's an air bubble is created by that infinite godliness. So that air bubble is an quote unquote God withdrawing, to allow there to be space for creation. Then God creates the whole world, the whole universe. And let's say the whole universe is a sponge in that space. And then God pops the bubble, so to speak, and all the waters go back and infuse the sponge with the water, with godliness. And so too, our whole world is infused with this waters of knowledge and God energy and divine energy. So we are surrounded by and part of the oneness that is God. It's not that God is one and we're over here and God's over there. It's that we are part of that oneness that is God. There is only God, and we exist within that onlyness of God. The third metaphor, or the third analogy perhaps, is the largest living organic organism that exists in the world. The largest organism in the world, apparently, is a huge forest of aspen trees in Colorado. So if you're in a cable car going up over the forest of aspen trees and you look down out of your cable car, you'll see a forest, miles of forest of aspen trees, and each tree looks like it's independent. Each tree is standing upright and looks like it's its own independent entity. However, if you go under the ground, you go into the soil, you go into the ground, you'll see apparently that all the roots of all of this thousands and thousands of trees are all interconnected. That the independent nature of each tree is not really what you're seeing. You're seeing what looks to be independent, but beneath the surface, all the roots are joined. It's a one organism that looks to be separated and independent. And so too, we walk around thinking we're separate. I'm separate from everything, and I'm my own being, and we live that reality and understand that we all come from the same source. There's nothing but God, and all of our divine energy, everything that comes into the world is coming from God. So we're all part of that oneness, and we might appear to be different, like the aspen trees appear to be independent trees, but beneath the surface, they're all joined at that root system. We are all joined at that root system. So we have divine holiness, and our neighbors have divine holiness, and the whole world is infused with divine holiness. We're all plugged in to the source, which is God. So when we say the Shema, it's traditional for us to cover our eyes. We cover our eyes when we say the Shema. Shema Yisrael, listen up. Don't look, because when we look, we're deceived. When we look, we see plurality. We see lots of what looks like to be separateness and disjointedness. So close your eyes and listen. Listen for the full voice of God. Listen for the divine energy that's coming into the world. Feel it with our hearts and with our souls. Feel that oneness and know that we're all part of that divine oneness. We're all part of that. Ein od milvado, there's nothing but God. So at the beginning of this week's Torah portion, Moses is imploring, begging, asking God to let him into the land of Israel. It's a dream that he had to go into the land of Israel. And God says, no, it's not the right thing for you to go into the land of Israel. Even though Moses implores and begs from a place of, I don't deserve anything. I, Moses, don't deserve anything. I might have been the best servant of God and done everything God wanted me and brought the Jewish people out from Egypt and done all that I did in the world, and yet Moses is imploring God from a place of, I'm not entitled, I don't deserve, I'm asking as a free gift, please give me the opportunity to go into the land of Israel. And God says, no, it's not for you to do, but go on the mountain, go up onto the mountain and look out over the land. You'll get to see the land, you can glimpse the land. But also Moses says, God, look back. Look where you came from. Look what you did. Look how much light you brought into the world. Look how much you fulfilled and how many seeds you planted. So when it's your time to leave, you will have lived a good life. You will have connected the world to divine energy. And I think that's our role as the Jewish people. We are known as witnesses. We witness that God creates the world. God infuses the world with divine energy. God gives us a life that matters, and everything that we can achieve, we have the potential to achieve. We should try to achieve those things in the name of God. So when we say that God's name will be one, we say that in our liturgy many times, that God's name should be one. Again, it's this concept that even though we might experience God in many different ways, we might experience God as a healer, we might experience God as a redeemer, we might experience God as a friend, as a parent. There are many ways in which we experience God, and we might then perceive that God has many different names because of the way that we interact with the divine energy that's in the world. But it's all one. God's name is one, and at the end of days we'll all recognize that, and we'll all have that basic understanding that Moses is teaching the Jewish people as they go into the land of Israel, where they will not have the same overt miracles and the same overt relationship with God that they had when they were in the desert. So too, we live with a hidden God, and it's up to us to search it out, for us to hone our spiritual antennas so that we can tap into the divine energy that is all around us. So whether we're the baby in utero being constantly infused with divine goodness and love and food and sustenance and protection and all of that, or whether we're the sponge in the infinite ocean of godliness that is absorbed and taking in all that divine energy, or if we're like an aspen tree, knowing that our root system is all interconnected. However we relate to this concept of ein od milvado, that there's nothing than God, That's the foundation of how to live in this world. And that is what Moses is trying, I think, to teach the Jewish people as they're about to go into the land. Don't lose sight of the reality of the oneness of God, meaning there is only God.